Sit with this for a moment. Self-doubt is not a verdict. It is a visitor, soft, urgent, repeating a warning. When we treat it like truth, it becomes tyrant. When we slow down and observe, its shape changes. Watch the thought. Notice the tightness in the chest. Name the voice without joining it. That small shift, seeing rather than believing, already loosens a grip. You don't have to erase doubt. You can learn its language. And once you listen, you begin to recognize where it learned to speak. Trace the voice back. Often it began in a room of other people's words. A parent's aside. A teacher's impatience. A mirror that taught rules instead of reflection. Small rejections stacked into habit. Jung called it the shadow, parts we shut away. Those disowned edges return as the critic, tidy and fierce. Not condemnation. Just echoes and survival strategies. Map these scenes gently. Notice where the voice learned its lines. If you follow that trail, you start to see the pattern and where attention later gets pulled.
Attention narrows. It becomes a lens, precise and small. Doubt moves in like fog. The beam scans for threats. It lingers on past slips, rehearses what might go wrong. Your chest tightens, breath shortens, options thin to one, don't act. Loops form, thought circles that feel inevitable. The mind trades curiosity for caution, pattern seeking for protection. Small choices become battlegrounds. Notice the choreography instead of judging it. If attention is a tool, where, quietly, might we point it next? We can point that lens toward meaning. When approval is the aim, every misstep reads like a verdict. The critic turns tentative practice into proof of inadequacy. Viktor Frankl noticed that meaning survives what applause does not. Shift the aim and the stakes change. Failure becomes information, not damnation. Try choosing purpose over praise for a single small act. Notice how the critic's volume alters. This is not moralizing. It is a quiet experiment. What might you do differently if approval were no longer the measure? Now test that shift with small, deliberate trials. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to gather quiet data. Send a one-paragraph draft to a trusted friend. Speak for 1 minute on the idea you care about. Post a single image. Work for 15 focused minutes. Keep the stakes deliberately low. Notice what happens. Where attention goes. What feels true, and what is just noise. Record one clear fact. One small correction. These are not heroic leaps. They are tiny proofs. They accumulate. They change the story the critic tells by offering new evidence. Try one experiment now. Listen for the difference. See what the proof asks next.
When the critic speaks, don't jump to defend. Listen. Hold a steady, quiet attention. Name it out loud. That's the doubting voice. Naming softens the charge. It separates you from the noise. Then ask one small question. not to fix it, just to learn. When did you first appear? What are you protecting me from? Wait. Breathe. Let an image or a phrase come, however small. You might meet silence or a memory. Either is information. Both are useful.
When the critic answers, don't hurry to refute. Notice tone more than content. Listen for the shape of the fear. Feel where it sits in your chest or jaw. Describe it aloud. Harsh. Quick. Protective. This is data. Then offer a small reply. Not a grand defense. A boundary. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. I'll listen and I'll try this once. Give it a task. Let it watch rather than command. Or ask it to sit beside you, not in front. These are experiments in relationship. They are gentle recalibrations. You are not erasing the critic. You are changing how you meet it.
Pause. Breathe. See what softens next. Stay with that softening. Let the voice have shape. Name it a short, plain label. The worrier. The judge. Give it a seat across from you. Not to debate, but to be seen. Ask one curious question. Not to refute, but to learn. What are you trying to protect? When did this start? Listen for images, not arguments. Notice tone, tempo, the body's reply. If it speaks an accusation, translate it into request. If it brings a memory, sit with that memory's weather. Breathe. Set a 2-minute timer. Let the critic speak. Then offer a single, practical test. Show me one small way this might be true.
You are learning a language. Slow. Patient. There will be silence. There will be answer. See what the critic reveals next. What the critic revealed was not proof. It was a plot point. A habitual line in a story you've been rehearsing. Stories can be edited. Not erased. Revised. A label imposter, lazy, broken sounds final. But it is grammar. A sentence you keep reading.
Try a small change. Swap a noun for a verb. I am a failure becomes, I failed this way. Shift the tense. Make room for before and after. Try a temporary role. Wear it for a morning. See how your body answers. You are the author with a humble pen. Not to fix yourself, but to notice the margin notes. To add a scene. To shorten an act. There will be drafts. Quiet contradictions. One small edit at a time. Which sentence will you whisper into your story next? Now let the body proofread what the mind has rewritten. Stories live in posture, in breath, in the way your jaw holds a sentence. If identity is grammar, the nervous system is the book spine. It remembers the fold.
Begin small. A longer exhale. Shoulders that soften one breath at a time. A slow walk with even steps. A morning ritual you repeat like a quiet promise. These are not tricks. They are slow edits. Gentle repetitions that teach the body new punctuation. Notice the difference between effort and steadiness. Repair is not heroic. It is attentive, patient, mildly curious. Over time, steady rhythms make doubt sound less like a verdict and more like background noise.
There will be days the body forgets. That is part of the repair. If you listen now, what does your breath want to change?
Living with a smaller doubt looks like a life that tilts, not collapses. It keeps routines that anchor a morning pause, a weekly note, a rule to stop before an inner debate grows loud. When the old loop comes, you don't fight it. You notice the rise in the chest, the shortcut of the breath, the judge's familiar tone. You ask one simple question: what does this discomfort want? Then you respond briefly. A stretch. A walk. An errand that resets perspective. These micro responses widen attention over time. They do not erase worry. They shrink its claim. And when you fail to act, you offer the same mild curiosity. Not punishment. Observation. Repair. Over months, the critic still speaks, but with less authority.
There are a few quiet practices that hold this way of living. A morning pause, 2 breaths, a question: what needs steadying today? Tiny commitments, 1 small task you finish, no grand proof required. A repair ritual for missteps, a walk, a note to yourself, a reset you actually use. Tell one person what you're trying. Vulnerability loosens secrecy. When the old loop returns, you do the simplest thing first. Notice. Name it. Do the smallest corrective action. Over time, those tiny acts become scaffolding. They change the listener you are for yourself. Not a cure. A new habit of tending. And then you begin to wonder, quietly, what might this smaller doubt finally allow you to try? Now, with those small proofs in place, turn inward. Not to fight. Not to shame. To listen.
Begin simply. Pause. Notice the tone. Where is it in your body? Name it: tired, sharp, worried, whatever fits. Giving it a name takes some of its power. It becomes a voice, not the whole room. Ask one curious question. Where did you learn this? What are you trying to protect? Wait. Let an answer arrive, as image or sentence or feeling. Imagine the critic as a tired guardian. Meet it with gentleness. Offer a small trade: I'll take this step. You keep watch. Try it as an experiment.
Conversation over combat. Over time, the tone shifts. The critic grows less like a verdict and more like news. What might it say next, if you actually listened? Now deepen the experiment into a conversation. Sit with the feeling. Watch it move. No judgment. Just attention.
Name the voice. Note its tone. Notice posture in your chest. Listen like someone curious at a window. Ask one gentle question. Not to argue. To learn. What are you trying to protect? What would happen if I tried anyway? Then wait. Let an image, a sentence, a memory surface. If it speaks in a shape or a sound, describe that shape. Let it answer. You are not silencing it. You are making room.
Practice returning to listening. Over time, the relationship shifts. The critic becomes an informant. Less decree. More data. And then, quietly, what does it say next?
What the critic offers most often is a story. A short, convincing sentence that pretends to be the whole book. Stories can be read again. They have drafts. They gather footnotes and edits. They are not verdicts. Listen for the shape of your sentence. Is it a label fixed, absolute, or a scene with time and movement? Swap the noun for a verb. I am a failure becomes I failed at this. One sounds like destiny. The other sounds like something that happened.
Small edits matter. New roles. New verbs. Tiny revisions that change how you step into the next moment. Not performance. Not pressurized change. Quiet authorship.
Try a modest rewrite in your mind. Let it sit. See how your posture shifts. Which line in your inner book would you try rewriting first? When a sentence in your inner book softens, the body notices first. Muscles remember verdicts long before the mind will. A changed word can tilt the head, loosen the throat, slow the breath. So the next edit is often somatic. Small rituals anchor new language. A few slow breaths. A steadier posture. A ritualized start pouring tea, setting a pen down acts like a footnote for the nervous system. Repetition teaches tissue what your mind is learning.
You don't need dramatic practice. Quiet, consistent cues are enough. Let each gesture confirm the rewrite. Let the body keep the margin notes. Pause. Feel where doubt still lives in your chest or jaw. Then, gently, ask, what tiny movement could prove this new line true? Let those small rituals become the scaffolding of a day. A morning cup that marks the start. A deliberate breath before a meeting. A quiet check when the critic rises, name it, then tilt toward curiosity instead of collapse. When old patterns return, treat them like weather. Note the time, the trigger. Adjust the small things first. Short experiments. Gentle feedback. No verdicts. These are practices for living, not tasks to perfect.
Over weeks, the nervous system learns a different grammar. Doubt still speaks. It speaks softer. You answer with gestures you can repeat, with pauses you trust. And somewhere between habit and attention, a new question appears. What would a life sound like with a smaller doubt? It begins with small rules. Quiet ones. A weekly check-in. A tiny promise kept. A pause before a harsh judgment. Not ceremonies of willpower, but reminders for the body and attention.
Over time, those reminders change what feels true. Doubt no longer dictates the tempo. It becomes background, an instrument, not the conductor. You still notice it. You still listen. But you choose the next phrase.
When old loops return, meet them like a stray animal at the gate. Offer a bowl. Watch from a distance. Repair the fence lightly. No heroics. No final answers. There will be days of tidy progress, and days that look nothing like progress. Both belong to the same story. And somewhere in that quieter life, a new question settles in the quiet room. How small might doubt become, if we keep answering with presence?
If the tiny rules are changing what feels true, it helps to see where the feeling began. Doubt often arrives as a mirror. Not a single reflection, but a set of small ones. A parent's sigh, a teacher's quick dismissal, a childhood story we learn to carry. Those moments press grooves into attention. They become voices we mistake for our own. Jung named one shape of this the shadow, parts we disown that return as critique. Not condemnation. A signal. A map. When you trace those marks, the territory shrinks. The echoes stop sounding like fate. They start to sound like history.
Notice how doubt changes the way you look. Attention tightens. A wide field becomes a slit. The world goes quiet except for one recurring complaint. You scan for proof. You find it: small errors, slack sentences, a tone you imagine. Each discovery feels like confirmation. The mind loops. Rehearsal of loss. Avoidance of risk. Decisions stall.
Imagine attention as a lens. Doubt is the fog smeared across it. Edges blur. Possibility recedes. Your body answers, a shallow breath, a locked jaw, a slow retreat. These are not moral failures. They are mechanics. Patterns that can serve you, sometimes at the cost of living. When the critic narrows the view, choice becomes smaller. Curiosity fades. But a different aim, a quieter aim, can change the beam. What would your attention notice then?
There is another aim. Not approval, but meaning. Viktor Frankl saw it again and again: what keeps people moving is not applause, but something that feels worth carrying. Approval is a scoreboard. Meaning is a direction. When you act for approval, each misstep feels catastrophic. The critic inflates those moments. When you act toward meaning, mistakes become data. Small, useful signals. Your attention shifts from the scoreboard to the work itself. Breathing eases. Choices widen. Fear doesn't vanish. It changes role and advisor, not a dictator. Imagine one small move aimed at meaning. Notice how your body shifts. Notice what doubts soften. And what stays quietly curious. If your aim is meaning, testing feels less like a trial and more like a field note. Start with something tiny. 5 minutes of writing. One sentence sent to a single person. A sketch left on your desk. A short question in a meeting. Treat each attempt as data. Watch what happens. Did the critic grow louder? Or did curiosity widen a hair? Record the result without drama. A line in a notebook. A quick breath after. Small, repeatable acts create quiet proofs. They rearrange expectations slowly. Not to crush the critic, but to teach it new maps.
These experiments are invitations. Low stakes. Clear feedback. Gentle recalibration. Try one now. Pause. Notice. See what changes and what simply waits. Those small tests open a conversation inside. Not to defeat the critic, but to know it. Begin simply. Notice the voice. Pause. Breathe. Name it, the alarm, the editor, the child. Naming moves it from us to it. Then ask one question, quietly. What are you trying to keep me from? Wait. Listen. No need for an answer right away. If a picture comes, describe it. If a memory rises, stay with it for a breath. Imagine the critic in a room. Sit across. Ask where it learned that language. Ask what it fears. Hold curiosity, not judgment. This is dialogue, not interrogation. The aim is relationship. To learn its rhythm. To find a different tone. Try it now, softly, and notice what waits to be heard. Good. Now stay with that room.
Begin with a breath. Notice the voice again. Hear its tone. Where does it live in your body? Around the throat, the chest, behind the eyes. Name the sensation. Name the feeling. Invite an image. Let the critic take a shape. It might be small or loud. Ask one quiet question. What do you need from me? Wait. No hurry.
Listen to what arrives. A sentence. A scene. A protective rule. Notice how it uses care as armor. Thank it for trying to keep you safe. You do not have to agree. Try a simple boundary. I hear you. I will move forward anyway. Say it softly. Notice how that feels in the bones. This is not a debate. It is a change of relationship. Stay with the exchange a moment longer. See what wants to be heard next.
Listen. Breathe into the space between the sentence and the movement. Ask quietly, where did that voice learn to speak so sharply? Let an image arrive. A corridor. A small room. A shadow with a familiar accent. Notice its age. Notice the tenderness beneath the edge. Hear the fear it carries. Not as proof against you, as a messenger, imperfect and loyal. You can thank it. Then set a simple agreement. I will listen. I will test once. I will return with what I find. No drama. No surrender. Choose one tiny step to keep that promise. A 5-minute task. A short message. A brief rehearsal. Carry the critic with you, not under its command. Stay with the feeling that follows. Observe what softens. Observe what tightens. See what wants to be asked next. Now watch how it moves. A slow tightening. Attention narrows like a lens pulling inward. The world outside the beam softens. Small faults brighten. Possibilities dim.
Imagine drafting an email. Your hand pauses. You fixate on one sentence. The rest fades. Or lying awake, rehearsing a conversation, each imagined misstep replayed until action feels impossible. That's the pattern. Focus becomes a trap. The mind loops on threat. The body braces. Time feels thicker. This is not proof of truth. It is a perceptual habit. A rerouting. See the reroute when it happens. Name it if you can. Pause with the image. Notice what the beam chooses next. Often the beam is searching for approval. It tightens because something outside you matters more than the act itself.
Shift the aim. Make the task about meaning, not applause. Meaning doesn't demand perfection. It asks for fidelity to a question, to a curiosity, to a simple reason you chose to act. Viktor Frankl called this an orientation. It steadies you when outcomes are uncertain. When the critic shouts, ask, quietly, what would make this worth doing, regardless of anyone's praise? Let the answer be small. A clearer intention. A single sentence drafted for clarity. A learning, not a verdict. Watch how the beam loosens. Notice how the stakes change. And then, without forcing an answer, see what happens next. Begin small. Pick one tiny, safe thing you can do that matters to you, not to applause. 10 minutes of writing. One paragraph shared with one trusted person. A sketch, a voice note, a practice run. Make it time-boxed. Make it reversible. Make the cost clear and small. Do it. Observe plainly what happens next. Notice the data, not the drama. Did anything catastrophic follow? Rarely. Did you learn something? Often. Did the critic get louder, then quieter? Maybe. Let the outcome be just information. Let it alter beliefs slowly. Repeat. Short feedback loops build a quiet ledger. Proof accumulates in small entries. Over time, the critic's claims meet a different weight. Let those tiny proofs sit. See how the inner voice recalibrates. And what it asks next.
Now, move from testing evidence to a different posture. Not harder. Softer. Curious. Stop. Breathe. Name the sound that argues against you. A label is a doorstep. It makes the voice less mysterious. Listen to its tone. Where does your body tighten? What images arrive? Ask one simple question. What are you protecting? Or, what do you need right now? Let the voice answer. Allow whatever comes, a sentence, a mood, a memory. No arguing. Just listening. Try a timed exchange. 2 minutes for the critic. Then 2 minutes for you. Speak or write. No verdicts. Just facts and cares. Thank it. Set a boundary. Return to the work you chose before.
This is not capitulation. It's conversation. Over time, the critic changes its requests. Or offers nothing at all. Try it after your next small proof. See what shows up. After listening, shift from defending to editing. Identity is language. It moves when verbs change. Saying I'm anxious differs from I notice anxiety today. Swap labels for actions. I'm a failure becomes I failed at this task. Simple grammar. Different weight. Try temporary roles, an experimenter for an hour, someone curious for a morning. Retell an old memory from another seat. Watch what softens. The past isn't erased. It loosens its hold. Over days, small revisions gather into a new script. Not by force. By use. Notice the next sentence you tell yourself. How does it land?
Words change a script. The body must learn the lines. So slow it down. Breathe with intention, long exhale, soft inhale. Sit tall for 1 minute. Place a hand on your chest. Notice how language settles when the chest is steady. Repeat a new sentence quietly, twice, as if testing a key. Move slowly afterward. A short ritual anchors the edit. Over time, the nervous system updates. It does not rush. It remembers repetition more than argument. Try this now. Say the sentence. Wait. Listen to what the body answers.
Now, move gently from ritual to experiment. Choose one tiny, reversible test. Write a 3-minute draft. Send a single message that matters but is low stakes. Stand before the mirror and say the line once, out loud, then stop. Notice what changes: breath, posture, the critic's tone. Treat the result as data, not verdict. Record it simply: what happened, what felt true. Repeat. Small proofs accumulate. They do not need drama. They need fidelity. Over weeks, the body learns new probabilities. What would one quiet proof look like for you? Those quiet proofs open a small door. Not to defeat, but to dialogue. Begin by noticing. Hear the tone. Locate the sensation in the body. Say the critic's line aloud, then name it: the guardian, the teacher, the wary one. Naming gives distance. Then ask, softly, what are you trying to protect? What would you lose if I tried? Wait. Invite an image. Let a scene answer, without arguing. This is not correction. It is conversation. A change of posture toward the voice. Try it once. Breathe. Listen. See what the inner answer wants and what it quietly asks of you next. Now practice 3 simple moves. First, witness. Notice the words, the tone, the place it sits in your chest. Name it, not to fix, but to clarify: the guardian, the wary one. Second, ask gently. What are you protecting? Wait. Let the silence answer. Third, offer a tiny reply. Not correction. A quiet, I hear you, or a deliberate breath, a small step forward. Watch how the scene around the voice changes. Nothing grand. Just a new relation. Stay with that. See what curiosity opens next. Now watch how identity becomes a story, not a sentence. Stories can be edited. Try one small swap: replace "I'm not capable" with "I'm learning this." Not to fix, to experiment. Notice which scenes in memory squeeze around old labels. Gently lift one sentence. Change the verb. I am becomes I am trying. The voice softens. Space opens. You don't have to prove a permanent self. You can inhabit a narrator who is kinder, curious, unfinished. Try this as a rehearsal. See what possibilities arrive. Which line in you wants revision next?
Now the edits you make in story ask for a quieter rehearsal in the body. Thought can change a line, but the nervous system keeps old rhythms. So we slow. Breathe with intention. Notice the spine. Notice the small muscles behind the ribs. Choose one small ritual, a warm cup, 5 slow steps, and repeat it until patience settles into the tissues. Let posture hold a kinder proposition. Let breath widen the room around doubt. Pace your work in soft pulses. Not to prove anything. To give the body time to accept a new truth. What does your body remember when you wait?
Now those quiet rituals begin to show results in small ways. The critic still arrives. It is smaller. You meet it with a practiced breath, a question, a short delay. A daily rhythm, check, act, note turns proof into habit. When old patterns flare, you slow, name the loop, and choose one soft correction. Not to fix yourself. To inhabit continuity. Over time, the stakes change. Doubt becomes information, not veto. Your days rearrange around gentler assumptions. There is room for error. There is room for return. And somewhere between pause and action, a new kind of trust makes contact. What will it ask of you next?
When doubt softens, identity loosens. We begin to notice the sentences we've been repeating about ourselves. They are not laws. They are habits of language. Try a small edit. Change a verb. Shift I failed to I tried. Slip into a role briefly, observer, apprentice, neighbor. These tiny revisions reroute expectation. They give the critic new lines to read. Identity becomes a draft you carry, not a verdict. Over time the story thickens with quieter evidence. What line will you open next?
Now let the story meet the body. Words steer us, but the body remembers. Doubt settles as a tight jaw, a shallow breath, a folded posture. Begin small. Pause. Breathe for 4 slow counts. Feel the weight of your feet. Name one neutral sensation. Repeat a tiny, anonymous ritual. No grand fixes. Rhythm rewrites readiness. The inner critic keeps speaking. The nervous system learns new punctuation. Stay with that simple loop. Let posture lengthen. Let breath widen. See what softens. See what returns. What would steadiness feel like here?
Let these shifts land in daily life. Small rituals hold more than grand plans. A 2-minute check-in before work. A modest promise you can keep. A note of one thing that went differently than expected. When doubt returns, name it, not to shame, but to see its shape. Shrink its authority with tiny proofs, short commitments, quick feedback, compassionate corrections. Over time, the critic becomes a guest, not the governor. Keep a soft log. Tend to rhythm, not perfection. If old patterns reappear, ask one simple question: what changed just now? Stay curious. Stay steady. And notice, quietly, what happens next.
Now move inward. Stand beside that voice, rather than beneath it. Watch its tone. Notice where your body tightens. Give it a name, gentle, specific. Ask one soft question: what are you trying to keep safe? Then wait. No rebuttal. No hurry. Let images or memories rise. If a memory appears, speak to it as if you were curious, not wounded. Try a small imagination move, sketch a scene, invite the voice to say more. The aim isn't silence. It's a change of relationship. To learn what the voice actually wants. Stay with that question. See what answers arrive.
When an answer comes, listen like someone keeping a delicate instrument steady. Notice rhythm. Notice breath. Name the feeling aloud, even softly, and stay present. Try this. Watch the thought for 30 seconds without fixing it. Ask one quiet question: when did you first show up? If an image rises, describe it simply. No judgment. No argument. Offer the voice a role. You can warn me, but you cannot decide for me. Say it once. See how the tone shifts. End the exchange with a brief breath. Then, with small curiosity, wait to see what asks to be spoken next.
Now, move from listening to gentle questioning. Invite the critic to describe its worry. Ask one simple question: what are you protecting me from? Wait. No rush. Let the answer arrive as tone, image, or a single word. Name it aloud. Thank it for trying to keep you safe. Offer a small boundary: I hear you, but I choose for myself. Try this as a tiny ritual, 50 to 90 seconds. Don't fix the critic. Change the relationship. Notice how the space between you widens. Stay present. See what it wants to say next. You named it. You thanked it. Then breathe. Make a small pact. Give the critic a corner of time, 1-2 minutes, to speak. Ask 2 quiet questions. What do you need me to know? What would help you rest? Listen for tone, for images, for the shape of the plea more than its proof.
Hold a boundary. After the time, close the conversation gently. Keep the evidence, not the verdict. Notice how the critic's voice shifts when it has a schedule. Notice what softens. Stay with that. See where this negotiation nudges you next.
When the critic finishes, sit with the residue. Listen for the need beneath the alarm, safety. Notice a map out of uncertainty. Name the tone. Offer a role. Not judge, not jailer, but guardian of possibility. Then make a quiet bargain with yourself. 1 small step. Low risk. Measurable. Reversible. Let the critic witness the move. Bring back facts, not fights. If it protests, ask a single curious question. What would feel safer next time? You do not owe it certainty. You owe it experiments. Wait. See what arrives.
Now let the critic become a companion, not a courtroom. Pause. Breathe. Notice its voice as a part, a character, not the whole story. Name it. Give it a simple line. Ask 1 curious question. What are you trying to protect? Wait. Let answers arrive as images, sensations, small memories. Offer it a new role, watcher, witness, or weary ally. Invite it to observe experiments instead of vetoing them. Practice this gesture. Small. Repeated. Gentle. Over time the tone shifts. Leave the conversation open. See what follows.
When the voice stops running the show, the self softens into a draft. Pages you can edit. Small shifts change tone. Swap a verb I am failing becomes I am learning, or try on a different role for a week. Notice the looseness. Breathe. Let memory rearrange itself around new lines. These are modest acts. Not erasing history. Just re-inking the margins. Over time, patterns tilt. Curiosity replaces certainty, just enough to move. What story would surprise you if you let it keep changing? Words shape a story. The body keeps the proof. Try something tiny. A slow breath. A straightened spine for 1 minute. A cup of tea taken with attention. Repeat them. Not to fix the mind, but to give it a quiet register it can trust.
These small rituals lower the volume inside. The critic still exists. It has less influence when the chest is steady and the hands are doing simple work. Let change live in sensation first. Let posture and rhythm remember what language cannot yet believe. What would your body teach the story if you listen long enough? Let those quiet proofs travel into daily shape. One small habit, a minute of breath, a steady pause before replies. When the critic returns, name it. Respond with curiosity, not alarm. Over weeks, its volume drops. You will still falter. But the falter is data now. What might unfold if doubt only spoke softly?
Now, meet the voice differently. Pause. Watch its rhythm like weather. Give it a name, not to mock, but to make it small. Ask one simple question: what are you trying to protect? Wait. Breathe. Notice where the answer lands in the body. No fix needed. Just mapping. Over time, the voice becomes a companion with edges. What does it say next? Listen. Often it echoes earlier rooms. A teacher's sigh. A sibling's laugh turned sharp. The quiet way approval was measured. These moments lay tracks. Parts of you folded away. Jung called that a shadow, not evil. Just hidden light in need. The critic learns the route. It patrols the old corridors. It mistakes safety for certainty. Name the room. Stay with it. What memory opens its door? When doubt opens its door, it doesn't roar. It fogs the lens. The beam of attention narrows. Peripheral things dim. You find yourself replaying threats. Small choices swell into verdicts. Avoidance follows like a habit. The body tightens. Time compresses. These loops feel inevitable until they aren't. A steady breath. A small question. A brief look out of the tunnel. Notice where your gaze settles now. Now, with that softened gaze, ask what you are reaching for. Approval feels like fuel from outside. Meaning sits differently, closer, quieter. It changes the shape of risk. Failures become data, not indictments. You can test this quietly. Try choosing an action for its meaning, not its applause. Notice how the critic listens, then
Begin small. A 5-minute task. A single sentence sent. A rough draft saved. Do it for meaning, not for applause. Watch the critic's posture. It will name risks. It may predict collapse. Collect the quiet data anyway. Each small proof loosens the certainty of the voice. Let results whisper back. Let them be tiny, true, and unhurried. Then notice what changes when you hold evidence more often than fear. Now, turn toward the critic with curiosity. First, witness. Hear its cadence. Note the tone. Second, name it, not to defeat it, but to meet it. A name anchors distance. Third, ask a quiet question. What are you protecting? Where did this voice learn fear? Wait. Let an answer arrive, even faintly. You are not a courtroom. You are a conversation. Invite the shadow's voice. The point is not silence. It's to change how you respond. Try once. Then sit. Listen. See what shifts.
Now notice how that critic lives inside a story you tell. Stories have pages. They can be edited. Small changes, a different verb, a shifted role, loosen a sentence that felt final. You are not trapped in one chapter. Imagine a marginal note. What might you write there?
You might write one small thing, change broken to learning. A tiny edit. Say it aloud. Notice how your chest settles. The sentence loosens. The critic pauses, recalculating. It doesn't disappear. It shifts. Let that margin sit for a breath. What happens if you keep that line live for a day? Notice, where did that word arrive from? A casual line from a parent. A classroom laugh. A mirror held up by others. Memories settle into voice. Jung called some of this the shadow, parts we disown that become our critic. Map it gently. You don't need answers. Simply name one small origin. Notice the feeling. Stay with it, quietly. And see what shifts.
Now watch how doubt moves. It narrows your lens. Details blur, risk grows larger than it is. Thoughts loop on fault and avoidance. The body notices first tight breath, stalled hand. Attention becomes a fog. Simply seeing this shift loosens it. You can shift the lens. Widen it slowly. What might you notice then?
When the lens widens, the question changes. Are you acting for applause, or for what quietly matters to you? Frankl called that difference meaning. Meaning lowers the stakes. Failure becomes data, not judgment. Try a small choice for a reason you can say aloud. Watch how the critic rearranges itself. What would you try if approval mattered less? Try a tiny experiment. A 2-minute voice note. A single paragraph sent. A sketch made and saved. Choose something low risk and time boxed. Do it to learn. Watch what happens. Note the gap between prediction and result. Let the outcome be evidence, not a sentence. Repeat. Collect small, quiet proofs. Over weeks, the balance of evidence shifts. What small proof could you make today?
Now, invite the critic to speak. Not to be silenced. Just heard. Name it the critic, the old voice, whatever fits. Hear its shape. Ask one curious question: what are you protecting me from? Wait. Breathe. Listen like a weather report. No need to argue. Offer a small alternative: thank you. I'll try this instead. Test the tone. See if the voice softens. Keep a note. These conversations are slow. They change with proof. What would you ask right now? Begin simply. Notice the tone. Feel where the words land in your chest. Name it fear, protective voice, whatever fits. Ask quietly, what do you need right now? Wait. Imagine the voice as a weather pattern, not you. Offer a small reply. Keep the posture of curiosity, not judgment. Breathe. Stay with what shifts. What comes next if you listen longer?
Now look closer. Not to blame, but to map. Doubt often begins as an echo. A child's misstep. A teacher's offhand word. The faces that mirrored us back. Parts we had became critics. Jung called it the shadow, what we disown, speaking in fragments. Notice the shape of those first echoes. Where did the voice learn its tune? Stay with that question. No rush. Let the memory arrive like a tide.
Now watch how it moves. Doubt doesn't argue. It narrows your lens. Edges blur. You scan for fault. Small mistakes swell. You loop on what could go wrong and stop before trying. The body tenses. Breath shortens. Memory feeds the fog. Attention becomes a searchlight on threat, not a field of possibility. Notice where your gaze falls next.
See doubt as a signal, not a sentence. It often points to a hunger for approval, not a lack of worth. Change the question. Instead of "am I good enough?" try, quietly, "why am I doing this?" The stakes thin. Failures become information. Breath slows. The critic recedes. Notice what the new question reveals next. Look upstream. Follow the critic to its origins. Childhood rooms. A teacher's offhand line. A parent's quiet impatience. Social mirrors that taught you which parts to hide. Jung called these disowned fragments the shadow. They return as a voice, sharp and familiar. Not final proof. Just history. If you lean in, you might detect the moment that voice learned to warn.
Notice how the voice narrows your view. Attention becomes a lens, doubt, a low cloud. Details dim. Breath shortens. Possibilities shrink to safer corners. A loop forms, rehearsal of failure, cautious retreat. It feels true because it occupies your gaze. But it's a pattern, not a verdict. If you can see the lens, you can tilt it. Try tilting it and watch what comes into frame.
Tilting the lens changes what you aim for. When approval fades from the foreground, meaning steps forward. Purpose is quieter than praise. It gives failure a different shape. You try something because it matters, not to collect verdicts. The critic still speaks, but its volume shifts. Try one small act guided by meaning. See what settles, and what leaves room for another attempt.
Start small. A 5-minute sketch. A short message sent. A 30-second voice note. Note without judgment. One observation, what happened? Repeat twice. These tiny proofs quietly shift the scales. Keep a soft ledger. Watch evidence accumulate. See what changes over weeks. Let the ledger sit. Then turn inward. Listen for the voice that pointed out mistakes. Name it. Not to shame, but to know. Ask one curious question. What are you protecting me from? Wait. Breathe. Notice tone. Repeat, soften. This is not about defeating a voice. It's about opening a conversation. What answer arrives when you truly ask?
Listen to the answer. Stay soft. Let the critic speak without interruption. Name the fear it offers. Then ask one more question. If I tried this and it went poorly, what really happens? Wait. No hurry. Often the danger it imagines is smaller than its voice sounds. Offer thanks. Offer a limit. You can watch, but you don't decide. Try it once. 5 minutes. See what the critic does when you move anyway. What does it notice? Let what you noticed sit. The critic shows evidence. The rest of you keeps moving. These are small edits to the story you live by. Listen to the verbs you use about yourself. Are they fixed? Try swapping one from I failed to I tried. Feel how the sentence eases. Breathe. Stay curious about what changes next.
Let that softer sentence live for a day. Notice how your body responds. Watch choices become slightly different. Identity feels less like a verdict and more like a scene you can reframe. Small edits gather into patterns. They do not erase everything. They invite revision. Stay with that invitation a moment. What single line would you tell yourself now? Say that line softly. Not to convince anyone. To hear how your chest shifts. Take one small action that matches it. A tiny, low-risk step. Watch what changes in the room, your gaze, the sound of your breath, a hesitation easing. Keep it simple. Let evidence accumulate, word by quiet action. Over time, the story adapts. What happens if you listen for that small proof again? Bring that small proof close. Turn toward the voice that minimized it. Don't fight it. Notice its tone, its rhythm. Name the critic quietly. Ask one gentle question: what are you protecting me from? Listen without answering. Let the reply be odd, blunt, human. This is a conversation, not a verdict. Stay with the silence that follows. What would it say if you asked again?
Stay with that voice. When it speaks, ask softly, how could I show you I'm not a threat? Pause. Offer one small promise. Something simple. A brief test. Watch the tone. Notice any shift. No rush. Let the answer come, unfinished, like a sentence trailing off. Then wait. Listen to the reply. Note its tone, soft, sharp, pleading. Offer the little promise again, very small. Watch your body. Feel the pause between words. If trust flickers, stay with it. If not, stay anyway. There's information here. Hold it gently and see what it wants to be true.
Let your attention follow the voice. Watch its shape. Is it clipped? Fumbling? Old? Doubt often borrows a tone from elsewhere: a parent's caution, a classroom's hush, a mirror that named you too soon. Notice that origin without blame. Names are echoes. They can be heard differently. What did that echo expect of you once? And what might you answer now?
If you trace it back, doubt is not a sentence but a weathered map. It gathers in small rooms, classrooms, dinner tables, first mirrors. Voices folded into the margins. A parent's worry becomes a rule. A teacher's glance, a story you rehearsed. Jung called part of this the shadow, disowned pieces that return as critique. Map it without accusation. See where those echoes acquired authority. Which corner of your map still speaks for you?
After the map comes the movement. Doubt doesn't argue so much as narrow the eye. Attention tilts. A lens closes. Details shrink, threats enlarge. You rehearse failure. You skip steps you once took. The body tenses. Loops form, check, avoid, confirm. This is not willpower failing. It's a rerouting of focus. The quiet work is to widen the lens. Notice the background. Let peripheral shapes return. What would you see then?
Now, change the aim. Pause. If you act for approval, every misstep becomes judgment. If you act for meaning, missteps are signals. Approval narrows the lens further. Meaning widens it again. Viktor Frankl put it plainly, life asks not whether you're liked, but what you're called to do. What if your next choice followed that question instead?
So we move toward evidence. Not grand vows. Tiny, repeatable tests. A 10-minute task. A brief, low-stakes offer. A gentle deadline. Short feedback loops. Immediate information. Each small success nudges belief. Failures become data, not verdicts. Keep the stakes low. Keep tenderness high. Document what happens. Note the quiet proof. Which small experiment might quietly change what you expect of yourself? With those small proofs, a different conversation becomes possible. Sit with the critic. Notice its tone. Name it anxious messenger, old guardian. Ask one simple question: what are you afraid will happen? Wait. Listen without fixing. Offer a small reply. Treat it as a part, not a verdict. Over time, the voice shifts. See what it wants next. Notice how the critic sits inside a story you can edit. The self you carry is a draft. Scenes repeat because we tell them the same way. Try a small edit. Change one verb. Take a different role for a moment. No grand rewrite, tiny revisions that alter rhythm. Over time, the plot loosens. You are not a sentence. You are a paragraph, and the next line is always being written.
After changing the story, the body must catch up. Words settle only when the chest, the spine, the breath follow. Slow down. Count 3 soft exhales. Shift your posture like changing a costume. Repeat a tiny ritual, a pen placed, a cup warmed, until nervousness is less insistent. These are not fixes. They are invitations. To steady the pulse. To teach attention a new rhythm. Notice what eases. Notice what doesn't. Stay with that curiosity.
Let these small practices settle into days. A 5-breath check-in in the morning. A 1-line note after a fumbled attempt. Gentle corrections, not verdicts. When old patterns reappear, ask lightly, what needed attention then? Let doubt be a messenger, not a magistrate. Over time, it shrinks around clearer work and kinder pauses. There is no final victory. Just quieter mornings, and the question that follows each small proof. What did I learn? A quiet inventory replaces drama. Mornings hold evidence, not indictments. Keep simple markers, a weekly check-in, a brief note when doubt arrives, a small ritual that signals return. When they return, map them gently. Adjust tiny levers. Over months, the critic's voice softens. It still speaks, but from a smaller room. Lean toward curiosity. See what it wants to show tonight. Tonight, choose a tiny test. A 2-minute step. A low-risk question asked aloud. A small promise kept. Let the result be data, not drama. Note the gap between prediction and outcome. Notice surprise. Notice relief. Over weeks, these quiet proofs redraw proportions. See what the critic does when reality arrives.
Now, invite conversation. Sit with the voice. Don't answer right away. Notice its tone and posture. Name it: tired, protective, rehearsed. Ask one quiet question: what are you afraid will happen? Wait. Listen without fixing. These replies are maps, not sentences. Over time, the critic becomes a guide, or at least a companion. What does it want to teach you? Listen to the reply. Hear it as information, fear, protection, a buried want. Trace it in your body. Where the tightness, where the pause. Ask quietly, what loss does it imagine? No need to answer. Stay with one small, testable step that could shift this map. Not to defeat the voice, to learn from it. Then wait. See what changes.
Sit with the weight. Let a memory surface. A mirror, literal or not. The room where a small mistake met a certain look. Who was watching? What tone patterned your worth? These moments are not guilt to carry. They are geography. Parts were folded away into what Jung called the shadow, disowned pieces that became criticism. Consider them with curiosity, not accusation. What asks to be seen next? Listen. Doubt does not argue, it narrows. Attention becomes a lens, small and hot. Peripheral options blur. You rehearse mistakes. You check and check again. Choices feel heavier. Avoidance feels safer than trying. That loop, quiet, persistent, repackages fear as certainty. It lives in the body, a tightened chest, a quickened breath, a pulled back step. Notice that pattern. Notice where the lens points next.
Shift the aim. Instead of measuring action against applause, ask what this does for the life you want to live. Approval is a scoreboard that keeps the critic fed. Meaning is a compass that narrows the field without shrinking you. The stakes change. Failure becomes information, not verdict. Try one small choice with purpose, not praise. Notice how the body responds. Let that change. And see what doubt asks next. Small experiments turn doubt into data. Set a 5-minute timer and begin. Make a tiny promise you can keep. Share a sketch with one person. Note one precise outcome. Keep the tone kind. Collect small proofs. Over time, the critic speaks differently. It no longer demands verdicts. It negotiates. Begin with one quiet experiment. Then watch. What does the critic do when a pattern appears?
Notice what the critic says. Breathe. Name it: fear, care, old rule. Ask, quietly, what do you want from me? Wait. Listen to tone more than content. Treat it like a tired messenger, not a judge. Offer a small answer. A curiosity, not a defense. See how the voice shifts. Stay with that shift a moment.
Now, let curiosity lead. Ask one question. Softly. What are you trying to protect? Wait. Don't argue. Notice imagery, tone, posture, age. Picture the critic in a chair. Listen to its answer like a neighbor's confession. Offer a small reply. I hear you. Close the exchange with a breath. Notice what loosens. Stay with whatever comes next.
Now move from reply to gentle inquiry. Sit with the critic as you would a guest. Watch its posture. Note the tone. Name it softly: fear, belief, old habit. Ask one question. Not to fix. Just to learn, when did you start saying this? Notice where it lives in your body. Breathe toward that place. Wait. Let the answer arrive in fragments. No need to solve. Let the conversation stay partial. Stay curious.
Now offer a reply. Not a refutation. Acknowledge. I hear you. Let the tone be calm. Ask once more, what are you trying to protect? Wait. Breathe. Watch how the critic shifts. It may soften, or it may sharpen. Either way, stay present. Let silence answer. See where the conversation opens next. Stay with that question. Notice where it lands. What is this critic protecting? Reputation, comfort, a wounded smallness? The answer may be a fragment. Speak it softly. Don't fix it. Breathe. Watch your shoulders. Let the voice finish, or trail off. Protection often shows as small refusals, or as preemptive surrender. If you can, imagine offering that guardian a different task. What might it ask for next?
Ask it, quietly, what it needs to feel safe. Wait. No rush. Listen for the shape of its fear, loss, ridicule, being forgotten. Thank it for trying. Offer a new task, notice risks, not stop you. Let that possibility sit. Watch your shoulders. See how your body changes. If nothing happens, that's okay. Stay with the question a moment longer.
Notice what it says. Not to argue. Hear the texture of its voice. Name it, fear of failure, of being small. Ask one curious question. What would you like me to prove? Breathe. Offer one small test you can both watch together. Let the critic hold the role of sentinel, not jailer. Pause. See what shifts. Now listen for its answer. Not to obey, only to understand. Ask, what are you protecting me from? Stay soft. Notice imagery, tone, small demands. Offer a boundary. I hear you. I'll try this, and we'll review. Pause. Let the critic witness the experiment. Let the conversation begin.
Listen to what arrives. Names, images, small requests. Notice where the body tightens. Breathe into that place. Thank it for trying. Offer a brief test. I'll do this for 10 minutes. Then we'll check. Pause. Watch what softens. Watch what stays. Stay curious about what unfolds next. Notice which voice answered when you said yes to 10 minutes. Often it's an echo, an absent parent's worry, a teacher's quick dismissal, a culture's list. These echoes live in a mirror you learn to consult. They gather into a critic. Call it the shadow if you like. What story was written there? Stay with that question. Now notice how that critic narrows your view. Attention becomes a tunnel. Small risks swell. Possibilities fade to threat. You scan for proof the story is true. You rehearse avoidance. The mind loves certainty, even false certainty. This pattern explains the loops, silent, insistent, moving you away from action. Watch it a moment. What does the tunnel leave out?
Sometimes the tunnel hides the why. Approval feels loud. Purpose is quieter. It survives small failures. When the aim becomes meaning, risks shrink. The critic still speaks, but its verdicts matter less. Notice one small action you would take for its own sake. What does that feel like?
Choose a tiny experiment. 2 minutes. A single sentence sent. A sketch left unfinished. Notice the result without interpretation. Record one small fact. What happened? Repeat twice. These quiet proofs tilt the inner story. Evidence accumulates slowly. No grand declarations. Just a trail of small, honest data. See where it leads.
Pause. Witness the critic's tone. Name it softly. Ask one small question. What wants protection here? Listen like a room with 2 chairs. Speak less. Hold both voices without rushing. This is not silencing. It's conversation. See what shifts. Stay with the room a moment. Notice where the critic sits in the body. Name its shape, voice, posture, image. Ask gently, what are you trying to keep safe? Wait. Breathe. Let its answer land like a folded note. You don't need to fix it now. Listen for the next line. Thank it. Not to agree, to recognize. Ask quietly, when did you learn to speak this way? Pause. Let a memory or silence come. No rush. You are listening. The room holds what arrives.
Let the memory settle. Watch the voice beside it, tired, small, urgent. It learned rules in a room where safety hinged on being invisible or perfect. Not a villain. A messenger with blunt tools. Ask, gently, what was it trying to protect? Listen for its answer. Stay with the quiet that follows.
Notice the rooms where it learned. Faces that nodded, faces that did not. Small rules stitched into how you moved. Doubt is braided from those moments. Criticism, silence, a laugh that cut. Not accusation. A shadowed map. Look at the mirror it came from. What image wanted to be hidden?
Your attention is a lens. Doubt settles like fog. The field narrows. Small possibilities dim. You loop on past slights, rehearsed rejections. Avoidance feels safer than trying. This is not failing willpower. It's a redirection and economy of threat. Notice where the lens points. What would change if it softened? Slowly, turn toward the mirror of memory. Early voices, home, school, a look that taught caution, leave tracks. Parts of you folded away become critics. Not malice. A protection turned blunt. Trace one small origin. Notice its shape. Then ask, quietly, what else lives there? Notice how doubt moves. It doesn't shout. It narrows the lens. Possibilities fall to the edges. You fix on risk. The body tenses. Choices loop into what if. Attention becomes a small, steady light fog around everything else. Stay with that feeling. What does your gaze avoid?
Follow that small light backward. Softly. Where did it first tighten? A memory. A face. An offhand remark that stayed. Not to blame. Just to observe. Names, tones, old scenes, these are the maps. Let one rise. See its shape. What voice taught you to look this way? Look into that remembered mirror. Childhood angles. A teacher's tone. A family rule. These small reflections gather. Jung called it the shadow, parts we tucked away. The critic often carries them. Listen to its accent. What does it want you to protect? Notice, without answering yet.
Now listen to how it frames your edges. A small alarm becomes a verdict. It shrinks the room. It points at danger. Often it guards a softened place, comfort, belonging, an old hurt. Ask, quietly, what might you risk if that guard softened? Notice the pause. Stay with the question. Look back. Not to blame anyone. To map how doubt learned your face. A childhood mirror. A teacher's offhand line. The stories whispered into quiet rooms. The parts you hid become critics. Jung called this the shadow. See its edges. Where did it first speak? Let that question open, without hurry.
Notice how, when the shadow speaks, attention tightens. A wide field becomes a tunnel. Details blur. The critic points at one flaw and the mind rehearses that image. You stop exploring. You circle. The body follows, breath shallow, shoulders small. Pause. Where does your lens linger now?
Notice how attention narrows. One thought glows, others dim. The mind rehearses the worst take, looping like a scratched record. Your field collapses into near focus, a single error, a small imagined verdict. Breath follows. Time feels compressed. If attention is a lens, doubt is fog along its rim, visible, movable. What happens if you shift the lens just enough to let peripheral light back in?
Widen the lens. Notice what your action seeks. Approval lights stakes into judgment, meaning lowers the stakes. When purpose guides you, outcomes become signals, not sentences. The critic still speaks. It matters less. Hold one small choice to a quiet why. Watch the glare change. Try one quiet experiment. A 10-minute task. A tiny promise kept. Record what happens. No verdict. Notice the critic naming risk and the body noting relief. Small proofs rearrange belief slowly. They are not victories. They are data. See what changes when action becomes evidence rather than theater.
Now, listen inward. Notice the critic's tone. Name it softly. Ask, what are you protecting? Wait. Hear the body's answer without rushing. This is not argument. It's company. Try it once. Watch the voice shift. Stay with that answer. Don't fix it. Breathe as you would near a shy animal. Ask one question: what do you need from me now? Wait. No judgment. Listen for tone, for memory. Let the answer arrive in small fragments, then sit with them.
Trace those fragments back. Listen for their first rooms. A parent's sigh. A classroom laugh. A mirror that never reflected softness. Part stepped into shadow. Jung named it. Unshelved selves return as a critic. They speak in old grammar. Name one. Where did it learn that tone? Listen to how it moves. It narrows your field. A lens darkens, a distant horizon folding inward. Small mistakes swell. Possibilities recede. Breath shortens. Attention circles the old wound, hunting proof. The body learns the route. Watch that looping step. Where does your gaze drift next? Follow that tether. One image becomes the axis. Light slips from other paths. The mind rehearses endings. The body tightens. Attention simplifies to threat and proof. It feels inevitable. Yet it's patterned, not prophetic. Pause. Listen to the space between the loops.
Trace it gently. One childhood image. A few repeated words. The world reflected like glass. A neglected part-finding voice, Jung named it the shadow. It returns as critique, not prophecy. Notice where it learned the script. What did it want, once? It learned to steer your gaze. In a moment of uncertainty, attention narrows. Doubt becomes fog around the lens. Small possibilities vanish. You replay rehearsed failures. The body tenses, choices feel heavy. This is not truth. It's a habit of focus. What if you shifted the lens, even slightly, and watched what opened?
Take one slow breath. Soften your gaze. Let attention widen to the edges. The loop loosens. A tiny choice returns to view. The body eases. No grand proof required. Try one small, harmless move. Notice how the world answers. What little doorway opens now?
Follow that doorway back. Notice the earliest mirror, a glance, a tone, a remembered sentence. We learn rules there. Voices became maps. Parts of you are boxed away. They return as the critic, quiet and exacting. Trace one small origin. What echo shaped your edge? Now watch how doubt narrows your gaze. It becomes a lens that shrinks choices. It fogs the periphery until only error is visible. Decisions loop. You hesitate. Small possibilities fade. This is attention rearranging itself. Notice the pattern. Where does your gaze go next?
Then try whitening the lens. Breathe. Let the fog thin at the edges. Notice a marginal option: odd, small, unthreatening. It doesn't demand proof. Stay with it a beat. The critic will speak. Listen. Not to obey, but to learn. See where your gaze wants to wander next. Notice the critic's tone. Name it: sharp, anxious, small. Feel the body's answer. Ask, quietly, what are you protecting? Wait. No rush. Let a small experiment arise: one fragile motion. See what changes. Stay with the not knowing. What might come next? Try one tiny experiment. Make a small, safe promise to yourself. Keep it brief. Watch the critic's forecast. Notice the body's response. Let outcomes be information, not verdict. Gather that quiet evidence. Over time, it shifts the tone. Notice the space that opens. Then wait. Sit with what rose. Name it. Breathe toward the tightness. Ask, quietly, what are you trying to protect me from? Listen without fixing. Treat the voice as a visitor. Wait. See what it wants to say. Notice its shape. Ask, gently, what do you need right now? Pause. Receive whatever arrives: sensation, memory, whisper. Stay present. Don't rush the answer. Answer with curiosity. Acknowledge the feeling without fixing it. Tell the doubt, I hear you. Breathe into the space that opens. Notice what shifts. Wait. See what wants to be known next. Listen, where did that voice first speak? A mirror. A single dismissal. A small rule learned early. It became a script, not fate. Notice which lines still play. What wants to be rewritten?
Now watch how it moves. Doubt narrows the lens, attention tightens around a single flaw. Options blur, action thins. A quiet loop begins. Notice the tightening. Breathe. Stay with the space where choice still breathes. Notice how that narrowing makes approval feel necessary. Shift the aim. Choose meaning, small, quiet reasons that hold you when outcomes wobble. What would that change? If you let it?
Try a quiet experiment. A 5-minute promise. Send a draft. Make one small choice that matters only to you. Watch what unfolds. Gather that modest evidence. Over time, the critic loses certainty. Then try another, and see what shifts. Now listen inward. Notice the voice without arguing. Name it. Ask it a curious question, not to defeat it, but to understand. Stay present. Then wait. See what answers arrive. Listen to its tone. Where in the body does it sit? Breathe toward that place. No need to fix it. Let responses arrive slowly. What wants to be known next? A quiet memory. A younger voice. See the mirror that taught you to be small. The critic often carries what we refused. Name it. Let it sit beside you. What does it ask for, if not rescue? Notice where your gaze narrows. A small tightening. Possibilities dimmed to threats. Thought loops tighten like breath held. Follow that sensation quietly and see how doubt redirects you. What does it point away from? Often it points to a younger self, a small, unsettled part. An old story. A social mirror that learned to judge. We map these origins without blame. Name them. Watch how the critic echoes. What remains unspoken?
Notice how doubt narrows attention. It acts like fog over a lens. Details dim. The mind tightens around what might go wrong. You loop. You avoid. Quietly, attention becomes its shelter. What if you shifted the lens? Shift aim from proving yourself to tending what matters. Small acts take on different weight. Failure changes shape. The critic quiets, not vanished but curious. What does this work ask of you now? What would you try? Begin with something tiny. A 2-minute test. A sketch, a letter, a private rehearsal. Gather the quiet proofs that change belief, one small experiment at a time. What tiny act might alter your day? Sit with the critic. Notice its tone. Name it. Ask, gently, what are you protecting? Listen without answering. See how questions loosen conviction. Stay curious. And wait for the reply.
Wait. Listen for a tone behind the rebuke. Often it's fear wearing an old costume. Name that fear. Offer a quiet fact: you're here, breathing. Not to fix, but to sit. Then watch how the critic shifts. Or doesn't.
Now look back softly. Remember small mirrors, a teacher's sigh, a family story. Those moments lodged as habit, not verdicts. See them. Name them. Let curiosity, not blame, map how this voice learned to speak.
Listen. The critic often sounds like an old room, faded wallpaper, a teacher's glance, an unfinished sentence. Not truth. Habit. Watch where it points. What memories answer back? Look into those reflections. Names, stories, faces. Childhood echoes. Voices that taught you who to be. The critic, often a cast-off self. Notice the shadow. What wants to be seen? Each critic began as a lesson. A look. A tightening of a mouth. Family rules folded into posture. Schoolyards and small comparisons, mirrors that named you. Trace a few of them. Follow them back. What did you learn to protect?
It then finds your gaze. Doubt narrows perception, fog around the edges of possibility. Attention tightens. Choices blur. You start rehearsing exit routes instead of actions. Notice where your eyes rest and what they stop seeing. It focuses like a lens, bringing the nearest threat into sharp relief. While everything else dissolves, you lose breadth. You lose time. Listen to that narrowing. What else wants to be seen? When doubt narrows, shift the aim. Move from seeking approval to seeking meaning. Purpose lessens the critic's charge. Try it as a small experiment, soft, practical, and notice what opens.
Begin with one small test. 10 minutes. A brief message sent. Observe without judgment. Collect quiet evidence. Let results, not fear, speak. Over time, the data asks you to revise the story. See what unfolds. Now listen. Notice the critic's voice. Name it softly. Ask it a curious question. Not to defeat it. To understand why it arrived. Wait. See what answers come. Sit with it. Witness the tone without arguing. Name what surfaces: fear, habit, loneliness. Ask simply, what are you protecting me from? Then breathe. Wait. Let the quiet answer, or not. Stay present. Listen. The critic reads an old script, not a final verdict. Identity is a story we keep telling. Small edits change the plot. Try one. Notice how the room of you rearranges. What would your next line be?
Say that line aloud. Feel the hesitation. Let the body answer before the verdict. Try on a small role. Choose a new verb. Watch the edges of you soften. Wait. Then notice what wants to happen next. Let the hesitation sit beside you. Notice its voice, grainy, habitual. It is a signal, not a sentence. Hold it softly. Breathe. Stay curious about what nudges you next.
Listen for the memory echo behind the critic. Trace its edges without judgment. Let images surface slowly. No need to fix them now. Just witness. See what softens when attention is gentle. Now turn toward the mirror, early echoes, reflected voices, the shadow's gentle shape. Map them without blame. Notice how those replies braided into the critic. Stay with that curiosity.
Now watch how those braided replies narrow your attention. Doubt pulls the lens inward. You feel smaller. Breathe. Notice the gap before action. That gap is where interruption can begin. Invite curiosity into that gap. Breathe soft attention toward the body. Name one thought without judgment. Let the lens widen. See what quietly shifts when you stop proving and begin noticing.
Now, trace the doubt back. Notice an early echo, a phrase heard, a look that settled. These tiny mirrors shaped a rule. Not to blame, but to map. Lean into that memory. What image waits in the dark? Watch how that rule bends your gaze. Doubt narrows the frame. Details fall away. You loop on what might go wrong, missing simple evidence in the present. What does your attention keep leaving behind?
Begin by looking for those omitted details. Notice a small fact, how your hands rest, a sound outside. Name it. Breathe into it. The frame widens, just a fraction. You feel the loop loosen. What else shifts if you stay watching? A memory arrives, a mirror you once learned to read. Not accusation, but a map. Watch how that voice fits the room you were in. Stay with it. Which small story set its tone? Listen to its shape. An accent of someone else's fear. The room's light. A small shame, familiar as breath. Name it. Let the mirror stop deciding who you are.